Hi, I'm Valencia Gunder. Most folks just call me V. I use she, her pronouns. I'm based here in Miami, Florida, and I have the privilege and the pleasure to serve as your director of the Freedom Lab, also co-director of the Smile Trust, and also the executive director of the Black Collective.
All right. First up, hi.
Hello.
How are you doing?
So my name is Braylon Brown, and I am the co-founder and co-director of the Smile Trust.
Hi, my name is I Am Unique, and I am the Director of Operations for the Smile Trust.
The Freedom Lab, the place where we come to be in practice of liberation. Last year, my frustration, I had been in movement for a long time, doing disaster relief, all these things, and the work was expanding and expanding. And in my frustration, I had never been able to find us a home. We have scaled our operations to different parts of the United States, the southern points of the United States and the Caribbean islands. And we just have been doing pop-ups everywhere. Like, we didn't have a place. We didn't have a place that we belong to, nowhere to ground us. And we're so grateful for movement, the Miami community, to let us pop up in their yards or in their parking lots. But our operation has gotten so big. Our operation had grew to the point that we would have to bring cranes in because we're moving now 300 tons of supplies to other countries. We are now feeding 187,000 households across our state. And, you know, no longer can you just do the pop-up. And that was my frustration. Over the years, like, I need a place. I was able to have a conversation with Dr. Armin Henderson.
Yeah, I'm Armin Henderson. I'm a physician and founder of Dade County Street Response, which has multiple different teams and programs. Doctors Without Borders is our urgent care. We have a street medicine team, and then we also have a disaster relief team as well. So some of the problems with environmental resiliency in Miami-Dade County, I think, are manyfold. Number one, it's really hot outside. I think that in places where individuals spend the majority of their time outside, like Miami-Dade County, and where populations who are unsheltered spend the majority of their time outside, or all of their time outside, it's really dangerous to be in a place like Miami when it is, you know, above 100 degrees, and the problems that people face around, like medications and problems with the chronic conditions that are exacerbated during times of increased climate. The other thing is flooding. You know, just the general flooding that happens because we're a lower land. Miami is below sea level, and that flooding kind of brings other people and institutions and corporations to commodify places that are higher above ground, like Liberty City, which is a historic Black neighborhood, which is where we're located. And so a lot of gentrification happens because of the flooding and things of that nature. And then third, I would say, is the hurricanes, the crisis and the disasters that occur every year. Not so much the crisis themselves, because no one really dies from like a hurricane itself, but the response to the hurricanes, the inadequate resources, the inadequate preparation and education around those things are what really put you know, people that live in Miami-Dade County at risk.
I think one of the issues our community members are facing is lack of resources put into community for restoration and climate resiliency. When we responded to the floods up in Broward a couple months ago, we seen that no one was responding to the community. We went out there, they said no one come to check on them, no one from the city. Some of the bigger nonprofits that do relief work hadn't stopped to their neighborhood because it wasn't enough damage for them to be able to help them. So we see just a lot of that happening in community having to solve problems for themselves.
Right, so she talked about that limited access to resources. We also talk about, you know, just the vulnerability to climate change, right? It's really hot. It's really, really hot right now. How do folks who are unsheltered, undersheltered, senior citizens and our children, how are they being affected by the immediate climate changes and the heat that happens here in Florida and literally around the world right now with the record heat? So, and along with that, we also have to think about how these folks are being prepared.
So we call it the Freedom Lab because we wanted it to be the space where you actually come and be in practice of liberation, right? Because so many times we could talk about it, but what does it feel like? What does it feel like? And I think it also like makes more sense after time of being here. Doing it at a faith institution made so much sense because if you look at the civil rights movement, Black Power movement, hell, the BLM movement, all of it was literally grounded in the church, literally, right? And I feel like the church and the movement got away from that, you know, because even when I said we was moving into a church, people was like, because the church ain't gonna let us be radical. The church ain't gonna let us be queer. The church ain't gonna let us be feminist. And I was like, yes, they will. New Covenant Presbyterian Church is a historically Black church in Liberty City. But surprisingly, they have a openly gay Latinx pastor. And I was like, perfect. That means he's gonna understand me.
Years ago, we started the Smile Trust, which was called Make the Homeless Smile back then. We always envisioned having a space where people could come and receive the services that they needed, the wraparound services, direct services, with people who have compassion, with people who look like them, and all it took was a smile, right? Thus the Smile Trust. And within that vision, all these years we've been working, we never had a home for our organization. You know, we worked remotely. Many of us had other jobs. So we came together, and when we came together, we noticed, hey, you know, we can get so many more things done when we're together, when we're in the same space. There are other community organizations who didn't have a home as well. They're struggling. Rent prices are rising. Our resources are low and limited. So that vision looked like having a space where we could call it home.
Welcome to the Black Collective.
And through that, you know, we went through getting a real estate agent, looking at different properties, also thinking about how our organization's programming works. Like if we need to ramp up and have our community or emergency operations center, you know, activate, who can handle that? We've been in borrowed spaces, and those borrowed spaces, honestly, weren't big enough. They smiled and they welcomed us, but we definitely outstayed our welcome. So we knew we needed to have our own space, our own home. So when we had the opportunity to partner with New Covenant Presbyterian Church, because they were looking, honestly, to find an organization that, you know, created synergy. They were looking to revitalize the footprint that they had within the community, right? So it seemed, you know, we did our pitch. You know, we told them what we did. We showed them what we did. They had the opportunity to come out and see, you know, how the Smile Trust worked. We shared with them, you know, our concerns for the community, what we saw the space could be. And we also shared with them what other organizations would come along with us. Thus, here we are now in a space that is 2 stories, a little bit over 5,000 square feet, and really a blank slate, right? An unused space. The immediate community definitely needed some pouring into, some love, some smiles. And you also have a space that's conducive to the work that we do. It's not only for small grassroots organizations, it's for community members as well to come and do the work that they need to do, to come and get the love and the guidance that they would need to go out into the community and to continue to do their work. The doors are always open. There's food for whoever who stops by. There's clothes here. There's, you know, a doctor in the parking lot.
You get to come up in here.
I just always say,
for free.
Really?
Doc is the doctor, but Belinda actually makes this whole shit up get ticked. Like for real. So she's here most of the time. She is actually a practicing nurse.
I'm retired.
Okay, but you are a nurse.
And I'm a...
It's okay. She's amazing. Revolutionary organizer, been in community very long time. Miami to her bones.
You know, and we're utilizing really out of the box ways, unconventional ways to get the job done. We use shipping containers for our clinic, which is free to the community. Dr. Armin, Doctors Without Borders, Doctors Within Borders is amazing, a Black doctor. So folks can feel comfortable coming to the doctor. So folks can feel comfortable coming to the space. Not only that, it's a multicultural space. You know, we have Latinx folks, we have indigenous folks, we have Black folks, we have Haitian folks. Everybody, we can speak multiple languages as well. And no matter what, we also wanted to center love, and people understand what love looks like in any language.
We didn't call it the Freedom Lab at first, but we just knew it was going to be a multi-use, multi-purpose space for community organizations. The shell of it, perfect. 2-story, 12,000 square feet. There's some good juice in this space in the middle of Liberty City. And it is literally 5 to 7 minutes from every other Black community in Miami. And I was like, this is perfect, you know? Shout out to Miss Jerry, who may not see this documentary, but Miss Jerry is one of the elders of the church in her 80s, and she was doing her best to maintain this space. We started to peel the layers back. We started to do the renovations. We ended up getting the resources actually from 2022, when we first moved in the building. Hurricane Ian hit, and we had to launch our disaster relief. We got so many donations that even though after we serviced all of the households and everybody in the organization, we literally still had $300,000 left. And so we took that money, and that's how we flipped the Freedom Lab. The actual people gave us the money to build the Freedom Lab. It's great ways to learn from each other. Y'all loosen y'all bodies up. I hope y'all feel warmed up, ready to get into this work or whatnot. Y'all feel good?
Yeah.
Now, y'all don't sound like y'all feel good. Y'all feel good?
Yeah.
Prepared for disasters, right? So when you have a lack of resources, you really don't have the bandwidth or the dollars to have your family ready, because here in Florida, for every disaster that may come along, especially when it comes to hurricane season, is like you need 72 hours worth of supplies for everyone in your family. And if I don't have the money to put food on the table every day, then I definitely can't store 72 hours worth of supplies for my family safely.
I grew up in a church. I grew up actually in a Presbyterian church like this one as well. And, you know, some of the problems that I have with churches in general is that churches own the most amount of land in the properties. In the places where Black people are, is normally churches own a lot of the property that are there. And you know, when I think of Jesus, when I think of church, when I think of, you know, people who are asking for help, the first thing that I think of is that, you know, churches should be more radical in the way that they are standing up for people who are facing a lot of the problems that Jesus was encountering throughout the stories that are in the Bible. And so if I had imagined that this was the way a church space should be activated, this is exactly what I would have dreamt of. We should be here for the community. You know, we should be more active and more involved in the problems that face working class and poor people. And if I had my druthers, I think other faith spaces across the country should be activated similarly, because after COVID-19, we've seen that a lot of, you know, church congregations have been decimated. When the congregation figured that they didn't have to come in to get the word of Jesus, you know, and when pastors went online and started doing things through Zoom, it made it more accommodable for people to get the things that they needed from church, but then it left the space open. So I think this is the best use of a faith-based space. And hopefully more churches and other faith communities start to catch on to what we're doing.
To build an alternative where our folks can come for services, for safety, for support, for political education, for advocacy, everything under one roof that doesn't belong to the government, that doesn't belong to the city or whatever, where the government can't tell us what to do. The government don't have no control over our resources, right? Not the land we sitting on or nothing. And that has been the bulk of the idea. After, many conversations and me being in here talking and moving through the space, because I saw this huge vision. I didn't care from the moment I stepped in the door. I don't care what the smell was. I was like, oh, we home. Like, we literally brought our laptops and stuff day one. We didn't even have internet in here. We had to use a hotspot, but we was like, we home. Like, we just didn't care. And this is what we showing up for, and this is where we're at moving forward. The first thing we did was, like, create the energy. Like, it was like, yo, like, we still gonna be nice to each other. We gonna already not be using no styrofoam up in here. We gonna be composting. This before we painted the first wall, right? It's enough food for everybody here. We gonna be trying to drink certain types of water to help with the environment, recycling, things like that. That's before we put a new chair in here. That was the culture already. This is already a safe space. You could already come here, And I felt like that was a good start. I said I wanted it to be bright. I wanted it to be fresh. I wanted it to be innovative. It has the technology. It has the spirit, the energy. I want it to smell good. I want all of that thing. So when you walk in here, even if you come in here just to sit down, you're like, oh, I like this place, Come here for different services. So to ensure we had different services, we did not depend just on the Smile Trust and the Black Collective. I feel like my organizations are really dope and amazing, but even if we go to our biggest, we cannot help every person that needs in our community, and that's just straight up, right? We knew that we needed to be in deeper partnership with more organizations to bring more services and advocacy and politics to our space. We had a grand opening, and over 300 community members came out because they saw us in here working. They're like, nobody had been in this building like almost 30 years. Nobody was moving into school, and now we seeing paint, we seeing signs going up, we seeing new windows and everything. And we went around the block and we say, hey, come through. Come see what we got going on and everything. And we had a big celebration. We had all of the indigenous people came out, the church came out. We had food trucks and barbecue and music and everything. And I was super happy that day, because a few things happened. One, we was able to reveal our gift to our community, which is the Freedom Lab. Two, to show my family why I ain't been answering the phone for a few weeks. Three, to show the church that y'all gave us a resource and y'all could trust us with it. Like, we want the best for it. And that same day, we got some shipping containers dropped in the parking lot. And people were like, what are these shipping containers for? And we like, we're gonna do a clinic. And they're like, okay. I'm like, okay. And then 40 days later, we did the grand opening for the clinic. I have now a Dade County Street Response Team under Dr. Armin Henderson's leadership in partnership with the University of Miami. And we have a urgent care, a free clinic on the property here at the Freedom Lab that we made out of shipping containers. Yes, it has electricity and AC, and it's gorgeous, and it's decorated, and it's fresh, and it's new, and it smells good. All the things that our people deserve to have when they are seeking medical assistance. We also, through Dr. Armin, get to have other services like eye care, feet care, and things like that. And now our services are expanding. The Smile Trust through disaster relief, food safety, housing safety, Black collective advocacy, legislative, electoral justice, and then Dr. Armin coming in with this whole medical alternative that is great. And then we are also the home of the Community Emergency Operations Center, which is the CEOC, which is a program within the Smile Trust, but it's housed, of course, here at the Freedom Lab. So the CEOC is a body of work that we started in 2017. It's to create a grassroots disaster relief model that any organizer can use to serve their community during disaster. A few years ago, had made the assessment amongst myself that like the movement in the church had like become like this swinging pendulum, and the people were here. You know what I'm saying? Like no longer in service too. It's just like, let's come in here and do our day-to-day stuff. Whoever comes, that's who we're gonna pray with. Whoever comes, that's who we're gonna march with, and that's it, right? And then leaving our people out of it. And that's not how our movement or faith institutions used to be ever, you know? You need to give the space up. You have these old buildings that you are not doing nothing with. It's local organizations that literally would change the course of their strategy. It would change the course of a community if we are allowed access to these resources. A lot of these churches paid off too. So that means y'all don't have to charge people a lot of rent. That's the best thing about New Covenant. People like, they gave y'all what for what? And every time I'm like, yes, that's what we're doing here. And that gives us a chance to allow organizations who don't have resources to be able to still come in and have a place to be. When you have a place, literally a grounding place that allows you to focus on being in praxis, opposed to trying to figure out how to survive. Every day we come here, it's people setting out the gate. They like, can I come in and use the bathroom? Yeah, come on in. They walking down the street sweating, drenched because of the heat. You should see us flagging people. You thirsty? You hungry? Come on in here. Oh, y'all know the clinic over here, Dr. Armin in the office. You know, and literally community members walk through the door and they just be like, can we? I'm like, yes, you can. People know to come here. It just feels good when people walk through the door and just like, can I sit in here? Oh, I'm extremely hot. Can I cool off for a second? Yes, you can here. Other organizations are super motivated. They like, V, you got room for us over there at the Freedom Lab? Or we want to do this activity, we want to do this event, and we don't have no huge budget. Can we use the fellowship hall? Absolutely. The community loves it. And also like organizations around the country are blowing my phone up, like, V, write it down. We need it. We got to have it. And how we approach our church, how we approach all of those things. And I think that's an important part of it, to like, hopefully the faith institutions, like the faith sector, will understand that you can trust the resources with the people.